Welcome to the Dark Night Podcast with tap dance artist Andrew Nemmer and Pastor Mike Freeman, exploring St. John of the Cross's seminal work, The Dark Night of the Soul. Listen to their conversations as Andrew spiritually prepares for his groundbreaking 12-hour overnight performance, Dark Night. Okay.
All right. Hey, we made it.
We made it.
The 11th hour conversation finally takes place.
The last one.
Oh, God.
So, as we're recording this a couple days ago, I gave my first talk about the project and was just recounting from my perspective what it was like to dance for 12 hours overnight. And one of the things that came up in the talk was that I had an end time, right? Like 7 a.m. It was over. My quote unquote dark night of the soul in that metaphor was done. And this is another ending. Like we get to the end of the book. The book is complete. Like it's over. We knew we were going to get there eventually.
Right.
And that is so not how this thing actually happens in real life.
Oh, exactly. There's no conclusion.
Well, and even if there is for one cycle of it, like it's not scheduled, it's not guaranteed, and it's striking to me as I go through this project and this exploration, how many endings are just normative and part of the thing, and we know they're going to happen, and the open-ended nature of kind of an experience of the dark night of the soul is more normal than kind of right, we got this, we checked it off, this is done, and
that's right.
It's that dichotomy has been striking to me.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so maybe this is more like the interminable soap opera, because no matter how many plot twists are resolved, there's another one. And they start recycling them after a while. You know, it's like how many lost twins or body doubles can you come up with? I mean, it's So when I say no conclusion, it's just like no, tying it up with a bow. Here we are done. Kind of like Return of the King. I mean, it took Peter Jackson how many minutes to tie everything up into a very nice bow? I mean, everybody's off in their different directions, and there seems to be beautiful resolution. And Sam says, "I'm home," and then you're wondering, so, and do you live boringly ever after? I mean, was there, what's the next thing? Because it's like there's always the next thing, which well, that sounds depressing and wearying, but it's just the nature of life. But,
and I wonder how much of that is, or how much of that have you experienced where it's external, where like the next thing comes at you, or whether it's internal, where you feel like a drive towards a next thing. I've definitely had both.
Well, right. I think it depends what we're talking about. Probably for the most part, we're not in a drive towards, okay, so I just concluded one bout with cancer. Let's move on to the next one.
Right.
Those are things that we just anticipate. Life is going to bring us our share of them. The others would be more of pursuing a path of achievement, accomplishment. We're trying to build something, and we are moving on to the next thing constantly, because there's always one more thing to do, not in an exhausting sense, but in the sense that we're not done yet. So let's fill our days. Let's fill each moment, redeeming the time, because these are evil times. But and what's interesting is talking about this. It's like the book really. I mean, we just end with the third stanza of this long poem, and so I mean, the last line there follows the line, "In the happy night," and I don't know. I'm still ready for. Okay, so that's it. So did St. John just? I mean, and we've talked about this before, but still coming
Yes.
to it, it still felt like, okay, yeah, it's like, but we're not really done, are we? But 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 yeah, I mean, it's ground we covered. It seemed a bit anticlimactic still, I guess. But
Yeah.
what was your impression with the last bit here?
Well, and I go back to the live event
Yeah,
where 7 o'clock in the morning is coming around, and we
yeah,
we so deeply wanted like beaming rays of sunlight to crash through the window,
right,
right? And it didn't happen like that.
right,
It was like a overcast wash,
yes,
and just very slowly got, brighter and brighter, but there wasn't any drama to it.
right.
And so it's interesting, and you can't choreograph that. Like
No, you
that
can't.
wasn't a planned thing,
No,
but it was interesting that was the way that it happened. Um, yeah, I think for these last couple of chapters, there were a couple things that struck me as kind of summaries. Uh, the big one for me was at the pretty close to the end.
yeah,
Chapter 24, number 4. So this
yes,
is page 192.
yep. I had that one too.
And I just kind of have a note next to that whole paragraph saying what's possible and how.
Mm,
And I think the possibility is something that gets talked about a lot. We want to become new kinds of people. We want there to be the possibility for transformation. We want kind of an experience of love that's not just sensual, but something deeper, more intrinsic, more quote unquote real, I guess. But the how is something that I feel is less evident in conversation. Um, maybe because it's so different, like it shows up differently for different people.
right.
But I have found this work in, the idea of a metaphor being enough to give us language for how this happens to be super helpful.
Right.
That there is a stripping of sorts. There is
Yes.
a wounding of sorts. There is the giving of a new mantle.
Right.
There is the opportunity for refusal to go forth.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and just having a recognition of kind of those moments has helped me have eyes out for like what could be happening with me, what I might be being led into,
Right.
especially in the midst of, taking on a project like this that's way beyond the scope of, my personal capacity and what in me needs to change for that to actually be possible.
Right.
So
Yes.
that was pretty striking.
Yeah, I think. I mean, looking back here, through the last, few chapters, I think the thing that really did, well, on 190 up at the top there, so it'll be in chapter 23, this hiding place of unitive contemplation. I just like that phrase. That was a good. The hiding place of unitive contemplation. So that, but it was the same paragraph 4 on 192. Soul cannot come to this union without great purity,
Yeah.
and this purity is not gained without great detachment from every created thing and sharp mortification. This is signified by the stripping of the bride of her mantle and by her being wounded by night as she sought and went after the spouse. For the new mantle which belonged to the betrothal could not be put on till the old mantle was stripped off. Wherefore, he that refuses to go forth in the night of aforementioned to seek the beloved and to be stripped of his own will and to be mortified, but seeks him upon his bed and at his own convenience, as did the bride, will not succeed in finding him. For this soul says of itself that it found him by going forth in the dark and with yearnings of love. And so, that took me, because I would say, Song of Songs, this is almost like the whole poem is a contemplation on the Song of Songs.
Oh, interesting.
And so, I just went and I'm familiar with the texts, but just going back and reading them, this is the message. Restless in bed and sleepless through the night is how chapter 3 starts. I longed for my lover. I wanted him desperately. His absence was painful. This is all just pure dark night of the soul stuff. It was kind of a nice recap, just going and just getting it directly from the source.
Yeah.
So I got up, went out, roved the city, hunting through the streets and down alleys. I wanted my lover in the worst way. I looked high and low and didn't find him. Now, you can put alongside this the pronouncement in the prophets, seek me with all your heart, and you will find me.
Yeah.
Well,
and Christ says the same thing.
You're right, exactly.
Seek ye first the kingdom of God.
Exactly. Yeah, he that seeks finds, he that knocks, the door's going to be open to him, and so forth. And so, I don't know, maybe we just need to have the word eventually put on this text, because I think we see more instant. Seek and you'll find. Boom, boom.
Well, it's not Google.
What's right? Google? No, right. It would be Google with a bad Wi-Fi connection.
Right.
You hit Google, and there's our little. It used to be the hourglass way back when.
Yeah.
And now it's that infuriating, and then it was the arrows chasing each other. Yeah. And now it's just that little circle of dashes, and round and round it goes, and round it goes. And at least now, after it's been a while, it'll like time out. At least it does, like on our flat screen if we're trying to log in. It eventually will just say, sorry, try again later, or something like that.
Yeah, sure. Unavailable.
I see lots of metaphorical or allegorical parallels with the search. But eventually it would kind of nice, it would be a nice little addition there for us to have. But I wanted my lover in the worst way. I looked high and low, didn't find him. And then the night watchman found me as they patrolled the darkened city. Have you seen my dear lost love? I asked. No sooner had I left them than I found him, found my dear lost love. I threw my arms around him and held him tight, wouldn't let him go until I had him home again, safe at home beside the fire. Oh, let me warn you, sisters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles, yes, by all the wild deer, don't excite love, don't stir it up until the time is ripe and you're ready. So this was a search that was prolonged, unsuccessful, runs into a night watchman instead. Now, this doesn't say he roughed her up, but then she turns around and boom, there he is. Now, chapter 5.
Her beloved.
What's that?
Her beloved.
Yeah, her beloved.
Yeah.
She runs into. What does it say? Was it the night watchman? Yeah, the night watchman. The night watchman found me,
her.
A group of them, as they patrolled the darkened city. She asked, "Where's my love?" No sooner had I left them than I found him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like she turns. I'm thinking Mary in the garden. Mm-hmm. Where's the body of my Lord? Do you know, sir, if you know where the body of my Lord is? And so she's asked, I still love the fact, I think, didn't this come up in conversation of how, because he mentions earlier that, that Mary, gosh, what did he say about Mary and the angels at the tomb?
He said Mary knew that what she was asking was like impossible to be granted.
Okay.
But asked anyway. Yeah. And that's like love asks for the impossible.
Right.
Or just tries.
Right.
Like I am seeking after my beloved in a way that is with kind of disregard for what I think is actually possible.
Oh, okay. I just remember processing his comment and thinking about that story, I'd never thought that most of us, if we went to a graveyard and encountered two radiant beings, we might be, I don't know, we might want to linger and ask them some questions like, whoa,
yeah, no,
who are you?
she was blinded by the thing that she was seeking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, wow. It's like it's like King George in Hamilton, right? Awesome, wow. But where's the body of my Lord?
Yeah.
And then turning around and now she just sees a stranger. It's she supposes is the gardener, and it's the same question. And so, I mean, that's what this would be like a hot link, I think, to that, where it's that kind of earnestness, and she's not going to be denied until she has the body of her Lord.
And everything else is not concerning.
Exactly. Everything else is set aside, which maybe that's the losing of the mantle, the mortification. It's like everything else is stripped off at this point. It's just the bare desire and expectation to, now it's not to be reunited with Jesus, but it's at least to have the one part of him that she can have. And that she wants to complete the task that she started. She needs to finish this memorial and the mourning process and so forth. Now, in chapter 5, because that's the second one, a second incident where you've got an encounter and a search, and I think it's this one. I mean, it's actually an actual exchange. I was sound asleep, she says, but in my dreams, I was wide awake. So it's almost like I'm in the Spirit on the Lord's day, Revelation 1. Oh, listen, it's the sound of my lover knocking, calling. Let me in, dear companion, dearest friend, my dove, consummate lover. I'm soaked with the dampness of the night, drenched with dew, shivering and cold. So this is Jesus. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears and opens the door, I will come in and sup with him and he with me. Revelation 3, 22? But the objection from the inside, but I'm in my nightgown. Do you expect me to get dressed? I'm bathed and in bed. Do you want me to get dirty? But my lover wouldn't take no for an answer. And the longer he knocked, the more excited I became. I got up to open the door to my lover, sweetly ready to receive him. And I've always loved this picture, desiring and expectant as I turned the door handle, and the picture in the Hebrew, my hands drip with myrrh. It's that classic nightmare situation where you're trying to open a door and you can't. It's like you can't grab the handle. It's slippery. And I'm trying to get the door open. It's like, I'm trying to open the door. And she finally, when I opened the door, he was gone. My loved one had tired of waiting and left, and I died inside. There's mortification.
Oh, wow.
Mortification right there. Oh, I felt so bad. Thank you, Gene Peterson. Yeah, I felt so bad. Okay, that almost seems like an imbalance. I died inside. I felt so bad. It's like Jesus saying, I am pressed to the point of death. I feel really bad, guys. Right. Yeah, we kind of got that from the dead, dying part. But I died inside. I felt so bad. I ran out looking for him, but he was nowhere to be found. I called into the darkness. There's our dark night, but no answer. I mean, that right there, that line to me encapsulates this whole experience, the mystic ladder, the whole thing, the progression of it. I called into the darkness, but no answer. And I don't think we equip people for this experience.
For the lack of answer.
Right, yeah. We have the instant Google thing. You Google Jesus on Sunday morning, here's the invitation, and just as I am, thou wilt receive.
The thing that struck me as you read was that I felt so bad would be something that I would go to someone and be like, I feel bad. Can you help me feel better?
Right.
And in the context of this idea of the dark night of the soul, like that's a mark of progression.
Yes.
Like that's a mark of, right, you're supposed to feel bad when you miss your beloved. You're supposed to feel bad that you couldn't get the door open for, whatever the circumstances might be for that analogy. And it's a good thing.
Yes.
Like that's a good thing. If you're just walking along and the things are happening and like there is no desire for your beloved, or you don't care that, certain things are surrounding your life and you're not feeling bad about them, then that would be cause for concern.
Yes. Yes. In essence, you should be inconsolable at this point. It shouldn't be, here, let me cheer you up. And it's like, oh, thanks so much. It's like, well, I guess you didn't really die inside. There's a little bit of exaggeration there. I was having a conversation with someone about grief and the situation with her aging parents, and she was just talking about how it's so difficult because as she tries to relate to friends, what really is kind of an inconsolable grief and at the impasse that she's facing and how stuck she feels. She said, they keep wanting to bring me up. And then I just asked her out of curiosity. I said, okay, so I'm just curious now. Would you find that is that kind of like a Christian response, or friends who are maybe more neutral spiritually, or maybe they're atheists or New Age people, are they able to let you lean into that without trying to make it all better? And her observation was, Christians will do that, but she said, the funny thing is, my New Age friends, they can be the worst because they're like, oh, such dark vibes. Oh man, let's get that bad energy out of here. You need to get that bad energy off of you. And I'm, I'm thinking, I'm just thinking, I'm just telling her, wow, okay, so this is a human condition right here.
Yes, that's
and
right.
we can augment it with Christianese baggage, or we can take a dose of a new age infusion, but it's still the same. It's the same response of they're not. It's not the Job's friends approach where they're arguing and saying it's all your fault.
Yeah, no.
But it is deflecting it and then trying to mollify it.
Yep.
And she doesn't want to be mollified.
I can't be comfortable if you're not comfortable.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And I think you can go to attachment theory, or you can go to a bunch of different places, I think, in Western psychology and other things. But I think there's a basic, interconnectedness that if we're okay being uncomfortable with someone else, then it's a bearing of one another's burdens.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
And in that way, we get to experience some of what is a human experience.
Yes.
Which ultimately would prepare us for our own, right? And hopefully prepare others for how to be with us when we're going through it. And I think when we deflect reality, which is basically what that is, we undermine our ability to actually live with one another.
Exactly.
And I think that's a sad state. And I don't think it's confined to one people group. Yeah. Right? It's just that there's some friends that are okay to, they're the safe ones to be with you.
Exactly.
Right?
I can go down the rabbit hole and you'll follow, or at least sit at the entrance up on top and wait for me. And so, we did have that conversation. In fact, I was sitting in, our bonus room in our house, and through the bay window there, I was just talking about, okay, so Jesus, he leaves the 8 of his friends going to Gethsemane.
Yeah.
He leaves 8 of them basically on the sidewalk out in front of the house, and then takes 3 right here to this spot where we're sitting now. And then he goes on essentially to the back fence.
Right, about 20,
so a stone's
30,
throw.
30
And I said,
feet,
that's probably about a stone's throw. I don't think we're talking about like a quarterback's football field. That's okay. That's not going to be helpful.
15, 20 feet.
They might have just stayed home. But you're right about 20 feet, stone's throw. And because he wanted them to witness his pain.
Yep.
And to be there so he could do exactly what he did.
Yeah.
surface, come out of it, and then just basically have them surround him, support him, and then he could get back into it again. And of course, they're sleeping each time.
Yep.
But my point being, that is what you need. Is you need someone who can be a witness to your suffering without trying to interrupt.
Yep.
And that, of course, well, in this case, she didn't have somebody who interrupted. She just had someone who added to it. Because I called into the darkness, but no answer. The night watchmen found me as they patrolled the streets of the city, and they slapped and beat and bruised me, ripping off my clothes, these watchmen who were supposed to be guarding the city. So in this case, okay, they're piling on to the pain, which I don't think we want that either. But he does seem to be drawing from this incident here where you got to lose your mantle.
Yes.
And there are people who will help you, evidently.
Yeah.
They will help strip you bare.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make any current political comments about what's going on in the country, but it's like there are people who will help you by adding to your distress, stripping you bare. I immediately, stick with the garden, I immediately thought, oh my word, this is the unnamed young man who followed the arresting crowd to the garden. And he witnessed the arrest of Jesus and saw them carrying or leading Jesus off bound. And he followed them, but a little bit too closely, because they turned around and tried to grab him and stripped off his mantle, and he ran away into the night naked.
Wow.
That's this.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what St. John I'm surprised that St. John of the Cross didn't say, it's like the guy in the Gospel of Mark.
So it strikes me that this example and the one in the garden is the relative organization of evil that's in the world.
Yes. Kind
of extending its hand, maybe beyond the scope of its initial kind of focus, especially with the unnamed man in the garden.
Right.
But the dark night of the soul is, at least for St. John of the Cross, is something that God does lovingly to someone.
Yes.
And so I think there's that difference between I'm getting run over by the evil of the world.
Right.
And that's causing me pain and suffering and all the things.
Yeah.
And that maybe being a catalytic event for a dark night.
Right.
Right? My house was set on fire by an arsonist or something. I lost everything.
Right.
Natural catastrophes, tornadoes, hurricanes, cancer, all the things that are beyond our control, but are seen as kind of evil on the impact side.
Right.
And we've talked about this, that there is that difference between having an experience of evil and then having it like an invitation into a dark night.
Yes.
Right? Where if you're in a situation where there's like significant abuse and it's ongoing and it's calcified almost, there is ample reason to reject the formative experience that comes from that and leave.
Right.
Right. And that is, in a way, categorically different than being, using an experience of loss, of significant loss.
Right.
To give up that kind of insecure attachment to a secure one with God that wouldn't, that break, and then the receipt wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Right.
And I think that's at least what came to my mind when you were reading those two things.
Well, I think we could see a parallel perhaps with Joseph's experience. It was basically 10 angry brothers who were tired of him. They hated him, threw him into the pit, well, because they were going to kill him outright, but then they'll throw him into this pit here, and yeah, I mean, you know how the story unfolds, but they ultimately decide to profit off of his sale and lie about his death and so forth. And of course, years later, um, Joseph's perspective widens on the whole thing, and he sees and tells his brothers, who are now quite remorseful about the whole thing, and says, do not, do not be hard on yourselves and don't bicker in the way, because you meant it for evil, but God leveraged it for good.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting about this one here, and it's the same thing with the story of the young man following Jesus who had his garment stripped off and ran away naked. Many assume that's John Mark. That's kind of like Alfred Hitchcock in any of his movies, appearing as a bit part. And,
right.
Yeah, there it is. So this is like John Mark's. Yeah, here I am. See, I was in this story too, but there's no resolution to it or explanation.
Right.
This story here, this storyline here in chapter 5, it has no resolution saying, oh, and this is what happened then, because it just goes back into that same chorus. I beg you, sisters in Jerusalem, if you find my lover, please tell him I want him, that I'm heartsick with love for him. And then there's a chorus from them, and then it's the woman speaking, and then there's a chorus from them. But the narrative, the narrative doesn't say, and then he showed up like the other ones. So chapter 3 and chapter 5 are interesting, because chapter 3, she goes out looking for him, not finding, runs into this group of night watchmen, and they don't know where he is. She turns around, there he is, resolution and celebration. Yeah. In this case, she's in bed not wanting to be inconvenienced, which St. John of the Cross is keying on. Wanting him on my terms. Right. My comfort.
Yeah.
But then realizing, oh no, I actually do want to let you in. Okay, I'm going to get up. Right. And then desperately going to get the door open, and then he's gone. Now I'm searching, can't find, run into night watchmen. But now, instead of not having a clue, they're beating the tar out of me, and they strip me naked. And now I'm just crying out in the street, oh, daughters of Jerusalem, if you know where my lover is, tell him that I want him. I'm looking for him, and that's where it's left, which makes this one, I think, a very appropriate image again for the journey that John of the Cross has us on with Dark Night of the Soul, and again, it's just touching on that same motif that instant gratification and the spiritual walk with God are two incompatible entities.
Very, very true.
And there was an analogy, because I went to a gathering of creatives, and there was a potter from in town that had a workshop in the afternoon, and I've seen pottery demonstrations. But it was just a reminder, and it was another metaphor to lay on top of this, that if you personalize the clay, there's some dark nights there for the clay, where they are just set aside and waiting. And just talking about that, he was talking about how that as you are, number one, you can see in a lump of clay, he says, you can see in a lump of clay as you get to know. Yeah. You can see what's in it and what isn't in it. And when you center it on the wheel, and that's one of the things emphasized every potter I've ever seen, is that in centering, the art of centering, first of all, you've got to wedge it, the clay, which is to get, you want an evenness, where there's no lopsided, a lot of air in this part, and so you're wedging it. Ancient potters stomped it with their feet, and I'm thinking, dark night, dark night, dark night, dark night, dark night. Hello, those early rungs, stomp, stomp, and of course it's a rhythmic stomping for these ancient potters, because they're singing. To them this is great fun, but This is another whole image of God singing his songs as I'm being stomped, stomped, because he's stomping and bringing a beautiful consistency where I'm ready.
Yeah.
And then when that lump of clay is taken, and it is, I've some of the terminology I've heard is that it is slap centered.
Oh, interesting.
Slap centered on the wheel. And that's essential, is that it's, so you don't just place it on the wheel. You know, it's just like, boom. And I've noticed, it's usually with force. And that has something to do with what center, to get it centered. You slap it down in the center and then you force it.
You don't want it to slip.
Oh, yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. And in one potter, you know, she emphasized that don't be squeamish.
Right.
Don't let the clay bully you. And I'm thinking, oh, I love that image. Oh my gosh. On my terms, in my bed, you know, don't let it bully you. You are, and you're leaning over it, you know, is the key. Your arms are resting on your knees, and you're in this, and you are forcing it into the center. And how do you know? You know, because if the wheel is revolving at like 250 RPMs.
Oh wow,
and so
that's fast.
It's moving.
Yeah.
And where you know it's centered is where it's still. There's no wobble in it anymore.
It's like the eye of the storm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so I'm looking at this, and I never would have associated this with Dark Night of the Soul. Because I didn't have this as a lens, which is why I'm thankful for the book, because it's like, okay, so this is what's happening.
Yeah.
This is this whole process. It's another way of looking at it. You know, Jerry is saying once it's centered and you start building it up, and you got a hand on the inside, you kind of hinge your fingers, and you got a hand on the outside, even pressure, a consistent gap in between, and so forth, and you start raising it up, you know. And if the thing collapses, wow, okay, well, that was a fail. And you know, the potter actually, that's not a big deal, because that happens all the time.
Right.
And it's not like you obliterate the clay. What you do is you just take it, and, you know, they just take it, and boom, it's back in the bucket.
Yep.
Jerry said that you put it back in the bucket, and it's like, you know, this experience, that clay is going to be even more ready the next time around.
Oh, interesting.
But of course, it's going to be isolated, alone.
Yeah.
It's wrapped in a cloth or in plastic. And so suffocating isolation after a failure. And you're just there. And there you are. And Jerry says, yeah, I'm just going to let it sit there for a bit. That's good. The longer it's in there, boy, the better it's going to be. And it's like, okay, now it's ready. And so just the implications for this and the whole process of spiritual formation, you know, the passage of the dark night of the soul. And we haven't even got to the kiln yet.
Right.
You know,
sure.
Where, you know, after they've made this, so they have their vase or their bowl, and now it's sitting out drying. And it's just sitting there drying. It's like, you're not useful yet, but you've got to dry out more.
Yeah.
And then,
turbidity.
After you've dried, then you're going to be fried. You know, and into the kiln you go. And again, the temperature, depending on what it is that you're firing.
Yeah,
but the whole firing process.
Yeah.
And to me, it was, I would not have benefited nearly as much this time around with that presentation if it had not been for Dark Night of the Soul, because laying the two on top of each other, it's like, boy, do I get it now and understand what John of the Cross is talking about. So anyway, it's so that I appreciated in here, and taking me to these two instances, chapter 3 and chapter 5. It's kind of just doubled, at least, my resolve with those that are on a path of spiritual seeking. Yeah, just to really encourage them. Maybe not so much to read Dark Night of the Soul, but at least to pass on the heart, the grit of this, that you just have to understand that this is not a linear do this, get this. And I'm not just saying it's going to be difficult, it's going to take time. You just need to understand this is a that road from Jericho up to Jerusalem is a narrow, hazardous, twisting one. And so just to understand, and I'm going to be reading chapter 3 and chapter 5. These two little snippets from Song of Solomon with a lot more folks. Just telling them this is what either have experienced or you will.
Yeah.
And it's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Don't try to get out of it.
Right.
Let it do its work. I mean, and we're back to the territory of James. Consider pure joy whenever you fall into all kinds of trials.
Yeah.
Whereas Peterson says, Peterson literally, he does put it, is don't try to get out of anything prematurely. Let it do its work.
Yep.
So that to me, it ended on a strong note because I'd seen all these references, but I realized I actually hadn't taken the time just to go back and read Song of Solomon with the lens of this now.
Yeah.
Because he keeps citing it. All these different verse references.
Yep, he does.
But just to read it, and I got these two clear pictures, and I thought, okay, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it is striking to me that the central ethic is a relationship of love, and how close in that relationship we can potentially get.
Yeah.
Different than a relationship to nothing, or a relationship that, like, it seems to. So Pete Holmes, the comedian, has this joke in which he very astutely kind of carves out the comparison of people who believe in God and people who believe in nothing, and that both are effectively things that you can't see, touch, or prove. And both people believe that when you die, you go back to wherever you came from. Some people go back to nothing, some people go back to God, right? And I've been listening to this joke for a while, and actually just this morning, there was a clip that I saw where he tells it much more slowly, and it struck me that for followers of Christ, one of the ideas is that it's not just that we go to heaven, is that heaven, like, our experience of life is infused with a life with God.
Yes.
Right? And so we're drawing it into our life now.
Heaven is coming upon us.
Right?
Yes.
And so, well, how does that work if there isn't a person or a substantial personality that you're relating to, that you're trying to draw close to you in your life presently? And as I thought about that in this context with Dark Night of the Soul, it's like this process infuses life with meaning that is not arbitrary. It's not just hard times are good because you grow from them. There's something very, very specific that you're on a journey towards that is ultimately and kind of unequivocally good. That in order to get there, this is one of the normal natural processes that is used quite often, if not all the time, for folks to end up to be the kind of people for whom love is inescapable from them. There's very little that will bounce them off of that characteristic. Like, so when they are offended, the things that comes out of them is loving. When they are torn apart for whatever reason, the thing that comes out is to will the good in the context of relationships that they're in. And I think if there is anything, if there is anything that can actually change the world, it's becoming that kind of a person.
Yeah.
When I gave the talk a couple of days ago, one of the questions that came up was, seeing that we're in a general dark night of the soul societally, what's your take?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And that was basically my answer. It's like, if there is still this kind of popular idea that the dark night of the soul is when there's massive upheaval, and which is true, and there's massive shifts happening, which is true, but also the more popular definitions that I've seen don't have an end as a union with love.
Right.
And so the goal is invisible still. Whereas St. John of the Cross has a very specific goal.
Yes.
Which makes the journey, I think, at least somewhat bearable, to say, I can now look, as much as my eyes are open, internally and see what might be being put to death, or what might be being dried out.
Yeah.
Or what, and if I really still want it, well, okay, then that's where I'm at, and I'm going to have a time to try and get through it. But if I'm okay with letting it go, then I bear the aridity, and I bear the stripping away, and I bear the mortification for the vision of the thing that is to come, because I don't actually know what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
And I think that balance between imagining and also keeping my hands open for the reality of what that might actually be, in terms of what a unification with love looks in, even small areas of my life, becomes one way to surrender without necessarily, just surrender, because there is a kind of blindness that I think is important and necessary, and St. John of the Cross talks about that.
Right, absolutely.
But I do find myself contending for an idea of love that's like in the other propositions just doesn't seem to exist.
Yeah.
And it makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
One of the folks that sent feedback on the performance said, it was a longer thing, but the thing that struck me, they said, nobody needs to tap dance for 12 hours. I was like, oh, okay, thanks, I guess. And then again, it's like, there's a lot of things that I would consider I don't need to do.
Right. Yeah.
That I end up having to do, and that are required for, a work that I can't do directly. It's not that I was trying to tap dance for 12 hours to get myself better, or to,
Right.
to turn me into a certain kind of person. In reality, it was like the only excuse I had to make the space.
Yeah.
And that space and whatever happened in that night gave me a sense of what secure attachment and communication without language could be.
Yeah.
That other things have not.
Yeah.
And not that I would recommend anybody tap dance for 12 hours, but from a spiritual discipline standpoint or a spiritual exercise standpoint, I wonder what the excuses are for us or for people listening moving forward that might create a similar kind of space for them in whatever invitation they're being drawn into.
Yeah. Well, you're the whole point of that performance, that event, was, I don't know if the better term would be metaphorical or allegorical demonstration.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, you can gear up for that, plan on it, and you can have a whole support crew. That in itself is part of the allegory, I think, is that you've got support. Yeah. But I think the point is that Dark Night of the Soul, this is something that tends to find us,
right,
rather than us going to seek it. Now I know she's getting up and going and looking, but definitely in the second case, there's a summons in a place of her comfort.
Yep.
And she's resistant to it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, no, I do want this. And then it's like it slipped through her fingers, literally. Yeah. And now she's gone looking for it, and she seems to get beaten black and blue, and then has her mantle stripped off and so forth. The point is this does tend to be something that finds us, and I think the question is, are we going to leverage this?
Yeah.
We are summoned, whether we like it or not, to a dance that they can't promise how long this is going to be. I mean, I think of your 12 hours, and I think we've commented on this before, your 12 hours, my 12 rounds of chemo, that at least, it's capped.
Yep.
Now, and that's been, my ongoing journey medically. I mean, it's like 5 decades old now, just about 5 decades old. And I just go to see my current batch of leader of my current batch of specialist gastroenterologists, and it was funny because he said, okay, so you've got a lot of the same old things going on, as you know. It's a matter of removing stuff as it grows, etc. Although you've got a new twist, you've got this thing to deal with here.
Right.
So we're going to keep you busy, is what he said. We're going to keep you busy. And as he outlined what he's talking about, it's like, yes, I know all of these things. And he did say also, we look at this because we look at a lot of people, we deal with a lot of people, and it's like, we look at you and we're thinking, yikes. And probably the least concerned person is you.
Yeah.
And that's unengaged.
Right.
But it's like, we're looking at this thinking, and you're like, okay, well, let's do the next thing.
Yeah.
But, suddenly I'm looking at that when he says, we're going to be keeping you very busy, because, sigmoidoscopy is going to be this procedure on the 18th. It's, what was it, NRP or NPR or something. It's dealing with a tubular adenoma by the bile duct, and we're going to have to put a stent in so that it's not messing with the pancreas. So it's like, ooh, that's new. And then in endoscopy, we're going to try and take out this other growth that's more typically what you develop, but it's in a weird place. If we can't get it through the endoscopy, then we're going to tattoo it, and then we'll have to go in surgically to remove it. And then we're also going to need, you're going to need to do pill cam again, and da. And I'm looking and thinking, well, this is kind of my own little version of 12 hours of tap dancing. There are some breaks, but it is like a litany. Yeah. Oh, that's the other word. We have a litany that we progress through, and I don't think you really had a choice. I mean, I suppose you could have just danced right out of the building.
There was a moment that we made in the piece where an exit was offered.
There you go.
Right, and it was it was fairly profound, and
Yeah.
there was some folks who responded in like when we asked them, they were like, that moment,
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah.
Said, okay. So yeah, there, and I was lucid to the fact that I could just stop.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's making me do this.
Yes, exactly. There you go.
And yet it was the kind of thing that the whole point of it was to not even as a metaphor of the dark night experience, but as an honoring of the choice to endure.
Yeah.
Just to say yes to whatever comes next, to be engaged to whatever degree that we can be, and to say, I'm gonna sit if I need to. I'm gonna stand if I can.
Right.
I'm gonna go from situation to situation as the night progresses, but I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
And that was, no matter how tired I got, no matter, and the support was there, even though I didn't, I didn't want to go to the bathroom. I didn't want to take food. I didn't want to take water. I ended up drinking a little bit over the course of the night. And folks brought me stuff because nothing was preset.
Yeah.
And so there is that communal dynamic that is so necessary, I find. Even in the midst of like the natural isolation that one feels when, okay, I'm going through it. Nobody else is really going through it, but everybody else is bearing witness.
Yeah.
And to have those people in that position to bear witness and to have consideration for you, dramatically changes the experience.
Yeah.
So I mean, if anybody's listening and kind of going through a thing, my hope is that there are folks with whom you can be with,
Exactly.
right, in the midst of whatever it is that you're going through, and that they can bear witness to you.
Right.
You don't have to ask them for a solution, but you can ask them, how do you think I'm doing?
Yes.
And
then let them bring you food and something to drink, because you hadn't thought about that. And that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you let them do that.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking again that we started off just saying that it's like there's no conclusion. We're left hanging.
Yeah.
And that's where an event like this is, again, a demonstration, but it's bounded. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Dark Night we're talking about, the actual human experience is unbounded.
Yes.
There are pauses, there are breaks, and people can have a journey with cancer and they're done.
Yep.
And they go on remission. Maybe it comes back, maybe it doesn't. But there's always another dance. There's always another event, and so you just enjoy. Yeah. And this isn't so much being fatalistic, but it's just recognizing. No, and I guess in my case, I have been doing this tap dance for 5 decades. Yeah. And they're telling me now, we're going to keep you busy. And it's like, okay, well, I don't know what time of day this is. I mean, if you're doing something for 5 decades with these procedures, surgery, and then we'll have this intensive experience with cancer surgery and 12 rounds of chemo, but you're still not done, because you're never done.
Yeah.
But yet the experience doesn't dominate. Right. It does define you or refine you. Maybe it doesn't define you, but it refines you. But it's like, I'm not gonna come to a point. There's no surgery which I can go and get that's gonna solve everything. Right. Yeah. That just means basically I have to have a complete replacement of everything that's on the inside. Oof. that's what they do when you're dead. Oh, you know, they take out all your guts and take out your brain, and they embalm and fill you with fluids, and they preserve your dead body. So it's like, okay, so there is no surgery. I mean, he talks about referring me to somebody in Salt Lake. It was like, well, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
They might solve one specific area, so it's less of an issue. But, you know, with FAP, it's like, this is a dance that goes on all of my days. And I've been reconciled to that for a long time. And so it's learning to embrace the rhythms of that. You find the air holes. There are more intense periods, and then there are periods where there's a nice long breathing space, and you're not sensing any trauma at the moment, any exhaustion. Oh, if I could just get off my feet, because you feel like you have been off your feet. And it's like, oh, now I'm getting back on the dance floor again. Ooh, this is a new one. Okay, so let's see what this is. And so it's like life is a continual invitation to, maybe it's not an invitation. I could opt out of the show. I think that's called suicide. And so it's like, okay, that's really not the option I want to pursue. And I was just looking at, I just picked up McConaughey's, he just released a book, Poems and Prayers, or Prayers and Poems. And he's got one in there that I want to commit to memory. I haven't yet, but, you know, basically is life a chase we race until death catches us as it runs by, or are we racing against death from birth until the day we die? You know, we're caught the day we die. And he says, whichever the case is, let's just hold on to the lead as long as we can. And it's like, thank you, Matthew. Yes. You know, so it's not a fatalism, it's not a pessimism, but it's a dance forward in this race. And
I think your example is one in which you have allowed your situation to form you in a way that is consistent with your vision of a life that's filled with love.
Yeah.
As opposed to any other possible formulation given the same set of circumstances.
But that's what that really is what this is. It's leveraging. It's leveraging this moment and turning it into a dance, which is what I love about your metaphor. Because when this comes at us, it's like, here it is. Am I going to turn this into a dance?
Right.
Or is it going to be a dirge that drags me and everyone around me down, and me alone ultimately into a pit of isolation? And I think St. John of the Cross is, we are moving up a ladder through this. We are not descending into the abyss. We are moving up a ladder with, what was it? Was it unification at the top, or translation? I can't remember what the word was.
Union with love.
Yeah, union with love. So
the top of the ladder is
unitive.
leaned
Unitive contemplation.
Yes. The top of the ladder is leaned up against the divine.
Yes, there we go. That mystic ladder in itself, that for me, this is like aftermath.
Yeah.
The mystic ladder is like, boom, it came together in a very concrete image, and we're moving up the rungs of this. And I understand that progression, and it is a progression. We are going up to Jerusalem. We're not going down into the Dead Sea, down into the abyss. No, we're going up to Jerusalem. And when you can understand that, then it's like, okay, now I'm tracking with Dark Night of the Soul.
Cool.
So thank you for the journey.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's been a real joy.
Yeah.
Production of the Nemmer Institute. Our theme music is Principle of Loving by Sam Adams. Please subscribe to the podcast and go to darknightlive.com for more details and to follow Andrew's journey. Thank you for listening.